We'll know everything's streaming because everybody's gonna go insane.
You go, buddy.
Start up a little bit early. Get settled in, finish our pizza. Here, Drama, look. Drama, can you get all the way up here for everybody to see you? Here, we'll feed you. We'll feed you for everybody.
There you go, pup. Say hi.
There you go.
Nom, nom, nom.
He loves it. Favorite thing in the world is pizza crust. Well, besides French fries. Oh, you got a little thing that went on the floor. What's up, guys? How's everybody doing? How's it hanging? We're starting the stream here a little bit early. We're going to start at 8, so we're still just getting some stuff set up here. We'll kind of wait for everybody to get into the chat here. I'm just setting up a little screen for us here so we can see what everything looks like. I saw somebody at the beginning of the chat was asking a repair question, which pretty amazing to me because that's what I actually put in the title, is Ask Repair Questions. Said, how often do I grease the pivot points on my release? So what I find is that when I take one of those bikes out of the box, I've got about 4 or 5 months before I start getting squeaky pivot points. And then once I re-grease them, they don't really get squeaky again because I just grease them really good with like with a good grease. I don't know whether they use light grease when it's first shipped. Have you noticed that when bikes are shipped, Sean, like, is there any difference between that and the way that you would like re-grease pivot points?
They're not greased enough.
And that's just pretty much the norm, no matter what kind of bike you get?
Typically, if you get like some of them where you can insert, like it's got a zert fitting or a grease port, there's going to be grease in there, but usually an insufficient amount. The linkages are typically just got a light coat on them, nothing enough. So if you have the opportunity, do it. It's not going to hurt. It's only going to be good.
So we got a super chat up here. Happy Man 97. Do fewer paid promotions and be more clear about what content features paid promotions? I mean, so just to clear everything up, my channel is sponsored by Box Components, Diamondback, Slime, and my patrons. And whenever I do a paid promotion in the video, you'll see paid promotion. Like if somebody pays me to actually promote a product, it'll be basically said in the video, this is sponsored by so-and-so. Otherwise, it's just sort of the channel thing where I have my signs up there and everything. But as far as doing fewer, I mean, this is kind of my full-time job. It's if I didn't monetize it, I would have to quit and get a different job. So yeah, I can only do so much. Let's see what we have here. The Savage One, love your vids. Thanks, dude. Thanks very much. Happy to answer some bike questions. Let's see here. How to prevent hydraulics from getting rusty. By the way, I didn't do a proper introduction. This is Sean from Squatch Bikes and Brews, and not only is he a bike mechanic, but he's a professional bike mechanic. So he can answer pretty much any question about any type of mountain bike or road bike or really anything.
Any bike.
Yeah, just if you answer a question, try and direct it towards the microphone. How's the audio, guys? We'll see in there's a delay, so we'll see them answer that in a minute. But so somebody said, how do you keep hydraulics from getting rusty? I can't say that
I've seen the bolt on the lever get a little rusty. Usually that's just not from bleeding it, not from cleaning it. You know, you go and wash your bike and you just kind of let it stay wet. If you got Shimano brakes and SRAM brakes, there's a little plastic cover that goes over that bolt that connects the hydraulic hose to the lever. Get that off of there, wipe it down, let it dry out, whatever you got to do. Prevent rust there pretty easily. If you got rust in your lines, then you have more problems.
So basically, it seems like a lot of things happen when you wash a bike and you just let the water sit there.
Oh, absolutely.
Or you don't like really bring your bike inside completely. Like
if you don't dry your bike off, if you are using too much power on the hose, if you're aiming it directly at bearings, water's going to sit in your frame, water's going to sit in those bearings, and you're going to get rust. Or you're going to worry why 2 days later while your stem and your handlebars don't move or your cranks are stuck, because your bearings are now rusted.
Mountain Bike Geek. Eric, thank you. And Colby, thank you. Bent my front tire popping a wheelie. Please help. I'm sure you mean you bent your wheel. If you bent it a lot, you're probably going to need a new one. If you bent it a little bit, then you're going to need to true it. On a live stream, I don't think we're going to be able to go over truing. It's a little bit too involved, but bike shops will do it for what, $15?
Yeah, about 10 to 20 bucks, I'd say.
Yeah, for a truing. Cost. So you're not talking about a big investment. Mountain Bike Geek, what up, dude? Yosef, not tech related, but I was talking to developers of the game Descenders. It's a mountain bike free ride game. They're keen to have you, Alex, Brian, Phil, etc., featured as riders in the game.
That's sick.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, if they if they reach out to me, I might be down for that. That'd be cool to see myself in a video game. Although I don't play video games. So yeah. Let's see here.
Well, someone mentioned way back up there on the stream, bent my handlebars. How do I bend them back? If they're aluminum, do not bend them back.
Yeah.
Please don't bend them back. They're going to break.
Yeah, handlebars are probably not the type of thing you want to bend back. What can you bend back?
Steel you can bend back, but it's only going to get weaker. That's about it.
Derailleur hangers, of course.
Yeah, derailleur hangers you can bend back easily. It's a small piece of aluminum from the factory. If you get an upgraded one, they're usually machined, pretty good piece of aluminum, so that won't break so easily or bend as easily. So
Craig's got a question. Thank you, Craig. When straightening a bent rim, do you replace the spokes on the side that get stretched in the bent area?
No, there's no need to. Depends on, if you bent it so far enough that looks like you ran it over with a car, you're just going to get a new wheel.
Yeah. Yeah, I think anytime I'm replacing spokes, I'm also replacing something else.
Yeah, if you're replacing spokes, something's bad.
Yeah.
Or you get a new hub or a new rim.
Unless you just broke a spoke or something, but if the rim is so bent that the spokes have actually incurred damage, you're going for a new hoop. Biking with Panda, Confucius says if your mountain bike is squeaky, try taking a trip to ride in Greece. Also, let me know if I can build you an epic bike LED. Panda, we will talk about that. An epic bike LED. I don't even know what that is, but it sounds awesome. The Drop with a $20 mic drop. For those of you guys who don't know, I'm working with the Drop to do apparel. I'll show you one of the shirts. These ones are my favorite. And here, this is sponsored by me. There's a little Sets Bike Hacks emblem on there. And on the back, these are official Sets Bike Hacks shirts. And they're really comfortable. You'll just want to keep on wearing them. And if you go to setsbikehacks.com, they're available. And yeah, I'm partnering with the Drop for that. They also sell shorts and all that stuff. Drama, you are getting way too crazy. Say goodbye. We're gonna bring you back in the house because you are just sniffing everywhere and causing a distraction. Get in there. All right. Very cool. All right. So, oh, good. I can see you right there.
Yeah.
A quick repair question. How do I fix Nobody Love Me? Thanks, Dave. Hertz Gaming. After riding, my shifting takes longer than usual. So I don't know what you mean by your shifting takes longer than usual. Maybe your shifting is out of... I'm sorry, I don't understand the question. Aiden, I blew out my rear shock and found the failed seal inside the lockout part. What should I do? How do I fix? It's in the upper part of the shock. Without knowing what kind of shock it is, I mean...
Inside the lockout part?
So it found the failed seal inside the lockout part. So where do you normally find replacement parts for shocks?
You can go direct to the manufacturer. They usually help you out. Probably direct you straight to a shop. Somewhere online may or may not have the right kit, but if you don't know what year your shock is or what model, you're probably going to get the wrong parts for it. Specifically to this question, the lockout, if it's the lever, you shouldn't have taken that apart to begin with. That is a highly skilled repair, to say the least. If it's on the internals, you just took the barrel off, then I'm not sure what seal you're talking about for the lockout.
So Aiden's in pretty deep at this point. He's already taken it apart. Now, let's say it's a Fox shock. If he goes to a shop that's a Fox dealer and he kind of shows them what he needs, they can probably order it for him. But if he calls up Fox, he's going to really need to know what.
Yeah, if there's a
in order to tell them
or
what
a
it is.
Model number somewhere etched in on the shock, and Fox will be able to tell you exactly what you have because they got to look up. You know, everything's got a serial number these days. And
I've seen like with some car parts, you can actually go on like a website and you can see like a breakdown of it, and it'll tell you what each thing is called.
Yeah, they'll spread it out. You know, 1 through 100. This is this. This is that, and it makes it pretty simple. I haven't seen any of those on Fox's website, but I also haven't looked in a while. I usually just take it apart myself.
All right. Yeah, so Aiden, I would start by trying to find some kind of a diagram of the shock and then find out what that piece is, and then either go to a dealer of the brand of shock you have, or yeah, from there you're gonna have to either call them up and tell them exactly what part it is, or go to a shop that carries Fox. Timcat, a couple of questions.
That's a good question.
If you can't remember how your headset should be reassembled, how do you find the right way, threaded or press fit BB?
You got some bearings here?
I don't have a headset bearing laying around, but I think so. Threaded or press fit BB.
Yep.
2 threaded or press fit BB. So how can we demonstrate this? I might have a headset. Let me see here.
I need a bearing. The bottom bracket's also going to be determined on the bike that you have. You cannot just put either or in typically.
Yeah, this is a tough question to answer without a visual. So if you can determine the parts, what's the first thing that's going to go in a headset? If it has cups, the cups.
Let's assume the cups and everything, or the frame is its own cup, campy style. The bearing is going to have a taper on it. That taper goes in. The top goes in. The top goes in. The bottom goes in. That taper always inside. And then you're going to have a couple pieces of metal. That metal keeps the bearing in place, keeps the whole thing from loosening up. And you may have a spacer here or there. And then you're going to have a top cap that sits on top of it, and just make sure that moves smoothly. And then your headset spacers below your stem. For the bottom, just make sure the crown race is on the fork. Make sure it's installed properly. And just make sure that bearing is the taper inside. That's typically how they're going.
I mean, I'm going to assume that Tim Katz took his fork out and everything fell out and is everywhere. So the first thing I assume your cups are already there. So the bearings are going to go back in first. That's always the first thing.
Yep, bearings always
right.
First.
And if it's a loose bearing or like inside of sort of a
like a cage bearing,
it's going to be the rounded side that's going to go towards the bike.
Yep.
Both ways, right? Then after that, you're going to have that kind of round piece with a race on it. That's going to fit over the bearing. Then you have the little piece of plastic with a split in it.
Plastic or aluminum, whatever it is.
Yeah, whatever it is. It's got the split in it. That goes down. Then all your spacers. Then all your stem. I hope that helps you. But yeah, that would pretty much apply to almost any bike. And then Hertz, thanks, dude. You just clarified. My shifting is worse after I finish riding. So the most common problems that people have with shifting are, first of all, their cable is stretched out, right? And then bent derailleur hanger.
Typically, the housing is stretched. If you look at derailleur housing, there's linear pieces of metal in there. Those will pull out. So that's the housing that's stretching. And if that's stretching too far beyond the plastic wrap, then you got yourself a mess.
So if it's stretched out a little bit and you're shifting just off of it, you see this little barrel right here? To tighten your shifting up, you're just going to bring it out a little bit. Bringing it out meaning unscrew it. Now you don't want to just crank on it and try and unscrew it like crazy. You want to do it just a little bit. I would go a couple of clicks, try the bike, see if it shifts better. Go a few more clicks, try the bike, see if it shifts better. If you can't get it by just loosening and tightening this little barrel, you probably need a derailleur hanger alignment or a more involved repair on the shifting.
This is a good example of a cable that moves smoothly in the housing, nice and smooth. Make sure if you take it all the way out, you're able to move the housing. Make sure there's no dirt in there. If you got a blowgun with the air compressor, blow out the dirt, put some lube in there, anything. Get the cable moving free in the housing. That could be part of your problems. You're riding in dirt, not cleaning it.
We're also going to assume that some of the people that are asking questions aren't even getting that far yet.
Yeah.
Taking apart like if somebody's never really adjusted a derailleur before, what are some things that they could try themselves without getting too deep where they're going to put their bike out of commission? Probably just mess with the barrels.
Yeah, just a barrel adjuster right up and down your block. If it's shifting poorly, turn it one way. If it's getting worse, turn it the other way, and just wait until it's shifting better. And if you notice it getting worse, go back a little bit and just get it to that point that you like it.
I would also, when you're trying to test your shifting, turn the bike upside down, because then you can pedal it and you can keep messing with the barrel adjusters or tightening the cable, and you can actually see whether it did something. So Python Gaming, I need a good mountain bike for under $200. Any ideas? It's probably not going to find something any good.
Local thrift shop.
And this is going to be repair questions, not kind of bike recommendations, but thanks anyway. Threaded or press fit, which is better? Depends on whether you're talking about bottom brackets or headsets, and I mean, there are crappy press fit and there are good press fit. It's sort of like what's better, apples or oranges.
Yeah.
And then the real Supergirl, would you say a hardtail is better than a full suspension? Wouldn't say it's better.
There's nothing better.
It's more reliable.
Depends on your trails. Depends on where you're riding, how you're riding.
Yeah, it's better for some things.
If you're not going to maintain your bike, get a hardtail.
Yeah, yeah. If you don't want to take apart linkage and grease it, then get a hardtail. Rocky, thanks for the hacks. Thank you, dude. Michael, love your channel, Seth. Keep the great stuff coming. And then Biking with Panda, the Mega LED is 50-watt LED I built that pumps out 8,000 lumens for about $100. Made a video on the thing to show how it's made and how bright it is. That sounds pretty cool. 50-watt LED. Let's go to the main chat and see if we have any legit bike questions here. My brakes are really squeaky. How do I fix it? That is such a common question when people have
squeaky brakes.
Squeaky disc brakes. What is it usually when somebody has squeaky disc brakes?
So there's a couple of different things. Your pads or your rotor can be contaminated. The best thing to do is not to grab the brakes immediately. What you want to do is clean them first. If you got the capabilities, take your brake pads out, take a piece of emery cloth, clean those pads up pretty good. Make sure there's no dust, there's no oil on them, if something spilled on them. And then take what I find best is it's a sharpening stone or a knife. Take one of those, nice and flat, to the rotor, both sides, until you start seeing the scratches, and you're gonna get fresh metal and isopropyl alcohol.
Wow. So you're not just going to clean up the rotors with alcohol. You're actually going to use something abrasive.
Yep.
What about like the green side of a sponge or something?
Probably not enough.
Probably not enough. So you actually need like a really fine grit sandpaper or something?
Sandpaper, if that's all you got, use that. But I like the sanding stone, the sharpening stone.
And get down to fresh metal.
Yep.
And then as long as your pads are clean, you put everything back together, squeaking should be gone.
Yep.
And then how do you prevent your brakes getting squeaky?
That's a good starter question. Burnishing in brakes. So you get a brand new bike and the shop says nothing about burnished in brakes. What you're going to do is you're going to go outside. You're going to pedal your bike as fast as you can. You're going to hit the brakes. Do not come to a stop. Do not come to a skid. Just hit them until they slow you down. And you're going to do that 10, 20 times, however long it takes until you feel the power of the brakes really happening. So after you clean the rotors and the pads, do that. Get them burnished together, get them matching. But that's something good to do straight from the shop if they haven't done them already. They may or may not have said it, but try it anyway. That way you don't go on a ride, go downhill, and you don't stop.
Yeah, that's exactly what you want to avoid. I know, like, one of the worst things you could do to your brake rotors is to actually touch them with your hands too, because your hands have also, I mean, they have the pizza that you just ate, like the grease on it. Any type of oil is bad. Ed, $20 mic drop. Thank you very much for supporting the channel. You just paid for the pizza that we had before.
Woo!
Thanks very much. Next time, leave a message so we can answer something for you. Thank you. Jackson Malone, I'm trying to buy a Mission 2. My dad's concerned about reliability. Is it and the warranty on par with like Cannondale or other brands?
I'd say so.
I would say so, because Cannondale, you're usually dealing with the shop that sold it. I'm sure you could go directly to them for warranty stuff, but with Diamondback, it's consumer direct. So you can just call them up or use the live chat on the site, and they'll hook it up. I've even, when I wasn't affiliated with Diamondback at all, I contacted them in the live chat, and they sent me a new derailleur hanger for free. So, so thanks, Jackson. Lady Mac, Seth, been a subscriber for about a year. First super chat and just signed up to Patreon. Love your videos. I'm just a regular recreational trail rider in New Brunswick, Canada, but your videos are top notch. Thank you very much, Lady Mac. I really, really appreciate that. Yeah, really, really, really appreciate it. And there's actually, if all goes well, first ever patron only video airing tomorrow. So it's a patron only episode. We're going to do this every month. So you subscribe just in time. John Neal, a pulley in my derailleur keeps jumping, so the teeth are on the chain link rollers. Any idea why? So the teeth are on my chain link. The teeth are on my chain link rollers. I think I know what he means. So it's going in between gears and it's sort of balancing on the side.
Up on top.
It sounds like he's down by one gear or something, or up by one gear, like the tension, or either that or a bent derailleur hanger.
That, that's a tough one.
I know exactly what you're talking about too.
That's a tough one. Try your B tension. Might not be tight enough. Might be too tight. Go to, if it's a SRAM, SRAM's got everything on their website. They even have a YouTube channel. They'll give you an approximation of how many millimeters you need to be away from the largest cog in the back. I have seen it before. Sometimes it's tough, without seeing the bike. It's hard to do that over the video.
I actually don't have a. Oh, yep, here we go. Okay. All right. So basically,
perfect.
See, do I have any chain? Well, I have a freaking chain that I don't want to have to take out here, but see, hey, can you turn down the volume on that all the way to mute? So this is a really good question, John Neal, because I think this is what this really comes down to is basic derailleur tuning. Because everybody's seen that where they go to shift and it's sort of like hopping up on one gear on the edge. And if the cable was a little bit tighter, by the way, it would probably go up into that gear. And if it was a little bit looser, it would probably stay in that gear. So first of all, as I said before, you can adjust the tension by turning this little guy right here. You can adjust the tension on your cable. Bringing out makes it tighter. Going in makes it looser. So you can always turn the bike upside down and play with that. Now, what Sean was saying is your B tension, that's your B screw. On any derailleur, there's going to be little screws sticking out of the back right over here. That is your B screw. And B tension is going to set how far this pulley is away from your cassette, right? So if you tighten the B screw, it's going to move it further away. If you loosen it, it's going to bring it a little bit closer. So that's something you might have to keep an eye on too. But most of the time, it's just your hanger's bent. And you either need to get a new hanger or you need to get it aligned. With a little bit of common sense, anybody can change a derailleur hanger. Aligning a derailleur hanger, that's, I would say, a little bit more of an advanced repair. It definitely takes a bit of a touch to get it done right. Let's see here. Oscar Sandstrom, any dream road bike? Do you have a dream road bike?
I got mine already.
What's that?
It's a number 22 out of upstate New York.
A number 22 out of upstate New York.
Old Serrata tools and everything. Old Serrata guys. It's a custom titanium frame.
Oh, that's pretty nice. Do you go to Dynamite for coffee? How often do you bleed hydro brakes? I do go to Dynamite for coffee sometimes. And how often do you bleed hydro brakes? When they need bleeding. I mean, you can sort of feel it. What would you say is a good indicator that you need to bleed your hydraulic disc brakes?
You're going down, your brakes are getting hot, and you notice the lever getting closer and closer. Sometimes even the lever get really tight, and that's when you know you got way too much moisture in there or too much air. These lines are not perfectly sealed, so moisture does get in there. So you do need to do a full bleed from top to bottom, on occasion. It also depends on how often you're riding. If you're going to be riding 5 times a year, you want to bleed them once a year. If you're going to be riding 1,000 times a year, you're going to bleed them once a month, maybe more. It doesn't hurt to bleed them. Fresh fluid is always good. Ask any manufacturer; they'll tell you bleed it as often as you can.
Yeah. I would say, are there certain types of brakes that you think need bleeding more often? It seems like the higher end they are, the more they need to get bled.
Not necessarily. I work a lot with the SRAM guides, and the lower models need a lot of bleeding. They seem to get squishier. Some of them,
I've noticed that with the guides.
Some of the higher end ones, you'll notice it more when the pads wear. Shimano's tend to need bleeding a little bit more, but that's a little bit more of an easier bleed. Sometimes it's just as simple as putting a couple extra drops in there. Hope they stay pretty tight all the time. Formula, same way. You'll end up taking fluid out to make those things modulate. But yeah, as often as you can. At least one. I'd say at least once a year is a good standard. So
Ed added $10 more. I'm thinking about getting a chainstay. I assume that by chainstay you mean a chain guide. My hardtail chain has so much play. Is it worth buying, or do you have another suggestion? If your hardtail chain has a lot of play and it's kind of slapping on your bike and flying around, I don't know whether you have a $2,000 hardtail or whether you have a $500 hardtail. If you have an inexpensive hardtail, you most likely don't have a clutch on your derailleur. And what a clutch does is it makes it a little bit harder for this part to move, right? It makes it so that when you pull on this really, really quickly, it sort of resists it. It sort of resists making the chain slap. Now, if your derailleur is older or cheaper and it doesn't have a clutch, then just replacing, now, of course, replacing your derailleur is a lot more expensive than adding a little chain guide. But to me, a chain guide is a Band-Aid. Unless you're riding downhill or something, or you're just really not looking to put a lot of money into the bike, I would say get a better derailleur. But yeah, a chain guide like the Bionicon C guide, that can take up some of the slack. Anything more complex than that is going to be a bigger install. You're going to need to take the crank off and kind of install it on the bottom bracket. You're also going to need to know all your sizing and everything down there in order to get the right one. I know I, for one, have ordered stuff and then found that it didn't fit. And I'm usually pretty good about that. So yeah, check to see how, high up in the line your derailleur is, and, look it up online, see if it comes with a clutch. That could be your whole problem, and you're just outgrowing your bike. Mike Kowalski, thanks, dude. Rear brake is leaking somewhere that isn't the hose input. Worth fixing or just replace? XT currently on a Pivot Mach 6.
I've seen XTs leak at the lever. Usually it's a seal issue, right where the plunger goes into the lever. You can get it replaced. XT brakes are reasonably cheap. You just replace the whole thing. You know, it's up to you. It's internal routing. It's a pain in the neck. If you're gonna have a shop do it, it's no big deal.
So on an XT brake, if obviously if something's leaking, he's gonna need to replace something. He's either gonna need to replace a lever or a. So what's the difference in cost from just buying a whole brand new?
It's usually about the same price.
It's usually about the same price.
Between lever and bleed. And
I'm with Sean on this one. Anytime I have like a complex hydraulic disc brake problem that isn't covered under warranty, I just replace the whole thing because they're usually not, especially like an XT is not that much. So replace. We're both voting for replace. Ben Wood, how to fix a cracked frame. JB Weld? No, just kidding.
Steel, find a welder. Aluminum, find a welder. Still never going to work right. Titanium, good luck. Carbon, you can send it out. It's going to cost too much money.
So at what point do you think it's worth, like if let's say there's a little crack next to the weld, like on the head tube or something like that, is that something that any moderately experienced welder could fix?
Potentially, you're going to get some bubbly welds. It's not going to be pretty like it used to be. Your best bet is to find a frame builder. And what they're going to do, they're just going to cut that head tube right off typically and just replace it and re-weld it. And it's going to look a lot better because they're going to clean it up. They're going to match it what it was.
Oh, that sounds expensive.
Oh, it can be.
So only do that if you have a super expensive steel, like custom bike.
Yeah.
So if you just have like a $600 steel frame,
your SOL.
Yeah, either find your friend that welds, just understand that it's not going to look pretty, put some big gobs on there, and send her and see if she holds up. Aluminum's a little harder to fix, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to say usually the first thing I do if there's a crack on my frame is I check to see if it's still under warranty.
Yeah, check your warranty, bring it to your local bike shop. That's where you got it.
Or touch it up and throw it on Craig. No, I'm just kidding. Let's see here. What other convert my mechanical disc brakes to hydraulic disc brakes? Am I Diamondback? Should I convert my mechanical disc brakes to hydraulic disc brakes?
Power, yeah.
They're really not that much. I mean, what's an entry level set of hydraulic disc brakes go for now?
50 to 75 bucks.
50 to 75 bucks, and you can use the same discs.
Yeah, the rotors are the same.
So you're pretty much just taking the calipers off, replacing them, changing everything on the bars, neatening it up. I'd say that's like a huge upgrade you could do for pretty cheap. And the really cheap Shimanos, the ones that are probably 50 to 75 bucks.
Yeah, they're black and they got no logo on it. It just says Shimano on them.
And those are super reliable.
Yeah, they work. They work just fine.
Yeah, I would say they're better than almost any mechanicals. But honestly, if you have good mechanical disc brakes, they're almost never as good, but they can be pretty good.
Yeah, they make some good mechanical ones. Avid makes their BB7s, which are fully adjustable on both sides, and TRP Spires. They double piston actuation, which is pretty good. I got them on my road bike. I like them.
Taylor is asking, is it worth converting from V brakes to disc as I keep replacing pads? So
that's a frame.
That's going to be, that's a loaded question because it's going to completely depend on your bike. Some bikes you can't really change to disc brakes. You really need the mounting points there. If the bike has V brakes on it, it probably doesn't have the mounting points for disc brakes.
Typically not.
Typically not. And V brakes, they're pretty damn good. I mean, you have to replace the pads, but they're strong usually. So I would say no. I would say, your next bike will have any bike, no matter what bike you get, your next one's going to have hydraulic disc brakes. So rock the V brakes. They're not bad.
Yeah, save some money, get a new bike.
Yeah. Let's see here. Do you think the dirt path near my school is solid like a no? Well, V brakes are pretty good when wet. Aiden says, I agree. V brakes are pretty good except when wet. And yeah. They do make some really good pads though.
I
found V brakes like cantilever brakes, caliper brakes, they all suck, but V brakes are probably the best rim brakes ever made for mountain biking.
Look for some cool stop Eagle pads. Those things will stop all day long. They might squeak, but who cares? They stop.
So G says he was riding rocky terrain and had a really bad shaking on his suspension. It was so bad that he had blurry vision. So
loaded question again.
That's a loaded question. I don't know how to answer that question because there's not enough information really. On any suspension fork, you can, and I'll show you with this one, which actually I'm giving to one of my patrons. Oh, my stupid thing didn't dry. That'll probably fall off. So this little guy right here, this little
Sagometer,
the fun meter, put that down here at the beginning of the ride it. If it's smashed up there, you might just be running out of travel, buddy. You might just be riding heavier duty stuff than what your bike is really designed for. If you're 5 minutes into your ride and that thing's already bottomed out, then yeah, you might want to add a little more air or volume reducers or consider getting the shock serviced. Somebody's asking me, why don't I like downhill bikes? I do like downhill bikes. So there's your answer. Spokes come loose while riding. My bet is that they were already loose.
Yeah.
When would you say is the most critical time to true a wheel? Probably a couple weeks after you buy the bike, right?
Typically bikes, stock wheels are pretty good for a while. When you notice your wheels start getting a little wobbly, obviously, get your wheels trued. But if it's continuously happening, get your wheels tensioned, get them redished. Anything that needs to happen, just go to the shop and be like, look, these things keep coming out of the true, and I'm not hammering on them. And then just get them tensioned. Tensioning is good for them. Make them equal on both sides. And if they keep coming loose after that, then you probably have a spoke to nipple problem. Maybe get some Loctite, or just, maybe need a new wheel set. Maybe you've outgrown that wheel set and it's not good enough for you.
Like what I've found is that after I true my wheels a few times, I don't need to true them as often because things sort of settle into place. Would you say that's true?
Typically, carbon wheels are the best. They typically never come out of true unless you hit something really good. Aluminum
I've
wheels,
actually found that too.
Yeah. Carbon wheels are awesome. If you're ever thinking about it, do it. If you got the money, do it. Carbon wheels are very much so worth it. But aluminum wheels, they will come out of true if you hit something good.
See, I'm usually speaking from the standpoint of knowing how broke so many of my subscribers are, but you're speaking from the standpoint of what comes back to the shop and needs to be repaired again, and what keeps coming back to the shop with more problems. And so you're saying that in general, carbon wheels are either busted into a million pieces or working perfectly.
Very rarely are they busted into a million pieces. If you're gonna hit it, it's just gonna crack. It's never gonna really explode. If you've seen one explode, something bad happened. But typically, if you hit it on a rock,
But you never have somebody come in with a bent carbon rim. That's not even
typically not.
It's not a thing.
It's almost not a thing.
Not even a thing. Hertz Gaming. How do I check for tubeless tire compatibility? So I assume what you're asking is, how do you check to see if your bike is tubeless? I would look up the bike on the manufacturer's website and look at like their spec page, and it's probably in the description to say tubeless ready. Tubeless ready is, do you even see UST tubeless anymore? Is that like dying?
UST still exists. No one's running it.
It's
that I've seen it exists.
Because why? Because tubeless ready is so easy. It's just
tubeless ready is super easy. UST, a lot of people didn't even run sealant. They put it in once and that was it. They set it and forget it. And it was just like the old school slime. Like your last video showed slime tubeless sealant. This was slime that was just gunk.
They were using the stuff that you're not supposed to use.
The car slime.
Car slime. Yeah, tubeless ready, like 90% of decent mountain bikes sold come with tubeless ready already, and usually you can just take the tubes out and just pour in some sealant, throw in some valves, and you're good to go.
Yeah.
So yeah, more likely than not, your bike is tubeless.
It should say it on the tire.
Anything over like what, the $700 range is maybe over the $1,000 range.
I'd say so. You know, you're still iffy on the wheels. You know, it depends on the manufacturer. You know what they're offering.
I've even seen like my friend, Nick had his bike that's a few years old, and we took his tubes out and it went tubeless right away. It worked perfectly.
Yeah, some rims, even if they aren't, may or may not work. If you're gonna try it and you're not a tubeless ready rim, or you don't know, get a tubeless ready tire and you'll find out real quick. Either it'll set the beat or it won't.
Because what you can do to try it is put a tubeless ready tire on the rim and try and pump it up without any sealant in it, so you don't get it all messy.
Yeah, you don't have to put sealant in.
Yeah.
Until you're ready to ride it.
Try and pump it up, and then if it holds, if it's kind of clicks into place and stays on there, most likely it's gonna be perfect once you throw the sealant in. So, Nick, thanks, dude. For dirt jumpers or general bunny hopping, do you think that it's better to have a higher rise or lower rise handlebar? I feel like low rise handlebars are harder to manual.
Personal preference.
I mean, that is personal preference, but Nick, I tend to agree with you. As a really short person, I find that a lower rise handlebar is harder to manual. And if you notice, BMX bikes have the handlebars way up here.
Giant handlebars now.
Because it's all about pulling up. So yeah, it's going to be easier to pull up if the bars are higher. But if you're really tall and you have really long arms and you have lots of weight to counteract it, it might be too easy to pull up. It might be squirrely. So it's personal preference. You know, it's going to be what works for you. But yeah, if you're having trouble pulling up, making them higher can't hurt, generally. So yeah, for dirt jumpers or general bar, yeah, whether it's a dirt jumper or a trail bike, you're pretty much looking at that. And M. James 35, do you recognize him?
Yeah, I think I know that guy.
Squatch Best in Brevard, intense spider specs of Fox 34 130 millimeter or Pike 140 millimeter, claiming the same A2C, but current specs show that What is he talking about?
I don't know.
Is he trying to confuse us?
Probably.
Yeah, he's trying to confuse us. Oscar, thanks, dude. Reactive mountain biking. Dude, thank you. How do you get the most smash for your cash on suspension, i.e. fine-tuning its progression? Also, how can you best lube your stanchions in between annual servicing? Get well soon, brother. Dirty South Tour. Keep on doing what you're doing. Yeah, this has definitely put a dent in any sort of plans I had, but I got it. I was going to start the Dirty South Tour in Florida, and first day this happened. So the first question was, how do you get the most smash for your cash on suspension, i.e. fine-tuning its progression? So how much are those MRP ramp control modules now?
I honestly do not know.
They're over $100. Yeah,
they're definitely over $100.
So smash for your cash, volume reducers are what, a few bucks each? I'm
not one for volume reducers.
Really?
Really. I found that there's better suspension out there that will allow you to finer tune your suspension. This is no down on Fox or RockShox. Still great suspension.
But now let's say somebody already has, because we're assuming somebody's already going to have a piece of suspension and they want to tune it, make it work well for them, like on progression and stuff like that. I'm going to say, is there any other way besides a ramp control module or volume reducers to tune it, to tune the progression?
Yeah, get it. What you can do is you adjust the air properly for you. Most people just get their bike and they don't set the sag. They just ride it, you know, and the rebound is set like a pogo stick, and the air is either too heavy or too light, and next thing you know, you're pogo sticking down the trail.
So start with tuning what you have.
Yeah, tune what you have.
Tune what you have is step one.
Do not mess with the air volume until you've finally tuned what you already have.
So make sure that your rebound feels good. Play with it different ways. Find like a section of trail that you can ride over and over again, and really dial in the rebound, dial in the air pressure. Make sure that you have all your gear on when you're setting that air pressure. Then once they've reached that point and they're just maxing out the fun meter all the time, would you say go straight to the volume reducers, or maybe even try running a little less sag?
Maybe throw a volume reducer in there. I just never seen it work out the way it's supposed to. Other people might disagree.
Yeah, I would tend to disagree because I'm like a huge volume reducer person, because I like short travel bikes and I like riding stuff that probably not designed for. But but one thing I will say about volume reducers is when you put them in, you're usually going to have to change some of the other settings. It doesn't just go in and the only thing that I found that sort of just works perfectly is the MRP ramp control module in my experience. Like if I turn that to the right, it ramps up the progression, but you're talking about most smash for your cash. Volume reducers are going to be the cheapest way, but you have to undo it and re-put it together every single time.
That's assuming that your fork will take them.
That's assuming your fork will take them.
Yeah.
Which, if it's a RockShox or a Fox?
Yeah, the Pike, the Lyric, forks like that, and the Fox 32, 34, 36, they should all use it. RockShox does make forks that do not take it, though, so don't just assume. Now,
what about lubing stanchions in between annual servicing? Is that something you would recommend?
I've answered this question a couple times, and there's two answers to this. Manufacturers of suspension say no. Manufacturers of stanchion lube say yes. Well, there's reasons for the no and the yes. If you're servicing your fork as you should, which is every 100 hours typically, if you look at the service schedule, then you should not need to. The oil in the fork lowers should be there. It should be plentiful, and in the dust seals as well. It should be there. You shouldn't have to do this. If you're not, then a little bit of company wet seal, they make stanchion lube, and you can use it on your dropper post. You can use it on your rear shock, your front shock, doesn't matter. It just gives it something wet in there, and you can use a thicker oil as well, a spray lube just temporarily until your service. So
those manufacturers that make the spray lube, like let's say Finish Line or something like that, are you hurting anything by, let's say, after a bike ride, you wash your bike, you clean everything up, and then you spray a little bit on there, work it, and let it dry out?
No, you're not hurting anything. Just make sure you clean off the excess, because you're just going to attract more dirt. And it's more than likely, if you have to lube it, that dirt's already in there.
Because I find that it makes a noticeable difference in terms of stiction if I just do it. And again, responsibly, like don't douse the whole thing.
No, just a couple drops here and there.
Because then you're just inviting the type of grime that's going to mess up your stanchions.
Yeah, like over-lubing your chain.
Yeah, like over-lubing your chain. Coverage dot. Thank you very much. A couple mic drops. I don't know if you meant to include a message there. Let's see what else we have here in the main chat.
There was a carbon handlebar question I saw. If you crash on your carbon handlebar, what do? Inspect it. Take the levers off. Take the grips off. Inspect it. On a road bike, I've always replaced the handlebar if there's been a crash, because typically on a road bike the crash is severe. On a mountain bike,
I've seen you crack a carbon bar.
Yeah, yeah, Seth was there. But yeah, typically if you crash a carbon bar, if you just lay it over, no big deal. But if you hit it on something good, definitely inspect it. Definitely shake it around, see what it feels like. It's not worth it. It happened to me.
Eric had a really good question. He said his kid's hanger is bent, and it's really bent. Should he buy a hanger adjustment tool or just get a new hanger?
If it's either one of those, just get a new hanger.
Yeah. Yeah.
$200 or $20, $30. I think that
I'm going to say get a new hanger too, because typically when you're using the hanger adjustment tool, you can't visibly see that it's bent. It's typically like, okay, this shifting's acting a little wonky. Let me out, because the derailleur hanger alignment tool is not meant to bend back a hanger. It's made to align a hanger.
Yeah, it's made to align it if it's a little crooked, If
it's a little off. But yeah, I would say you should just get a new hanger and yeah, take it from there. It's typically when you're tuning your shifting and you can't get it perfect, that's when you bust out the hanger alignment. And
we brought it up earlier, you know, usually your stock hanger is soft and it's going to break. If you can, upgrade it. You know, Wheels Manufacturing makes great machined aluminum ones, and you can get it directly from their site if you want.
So, Ride Beside, thanks, dude. And this is a really specific question. Do you have any experience with eccentric bottom brackets?
Yep.
All right. It sounds like you know a thing or two about eccentric bottom brackets.
All right. So this question, does it loosen like a saggy chain on my single speed? It's continuing to loosen. So I had one on a steel frame. It actually worked pretty well, and I did have to constantly move it. Finish Line carbon paste. It's for carbon seat posts or carbon handlebars. Guess what? Put it in there. It'll help.
Even if it's a steel bike or an aluminum bike.
It doesn't matter. Clean it out. Get all the grime
almost like thread locker.
Kind of, yeah. In a way, it's just gonna create a tighter bond between that aluminum EBB and the bottom bracket shell. Try that. See what you can do. Second thing you could do is compound. Use a thread compound, like you use on bottom bracket bearings.
So first of all, I think it's pretty interesting what an eccentric bottom bracket actually is. So let's say here's your crank arm, right? It's going into your bottom bracket. Now a bottom bracket's normally a circle and there's a bearing in there. On an eccentric bottom bracket, the bearing is actually offset like that. So as you turn the bearing around, you can change the position of your spindle so that you can actually put more or less tension on the chain. So not everybody has experience with eccentric bottom brackets. That's a really specific question.
Yep.
Angela Mort, hi Seth. How do I know if the chain on my 20-year-old Diamondback is loose or tight? It's going to depend. Is it a BMX? Is it a mountain bike with a derailleur? Is it a road bike? There's going to be a lot of on a bike with gears, like a road bike or a mountain bike. There is no loose or tight. There's just your derailleur's working fine or not. If it's a BMX, have you tightened it in the last couple of weeks? If not, it's probably loose. Those are going to need constant adjustment all the time. Single speed bikes, are not set it and forget it. You always need to be messing. You constantly need to be messing with it. So yeah, if either your shiftings and everything is working fine or not, or you have a single speed and you need to be adjusting it every few weeks. Clutch, thanks, dude. How much do I need to maintain my $80 mountain bike from Walmart? And also, great stream, Seth. How's Drama doing? Also, Drama, we just sent inside because he was causing a ruckus in here, but he's doing fantastic. He just ate both of our pizza crust.
Pizza crust?
Yeah.
Pieces of meat.
How much do I need to maintain my $80 mountain bike from Walmart? So what I would say is, so if you have an $80 mountain bike from Walmart, in terms of maintaining it, and there's maintaining it and then there's replacing stuff. Typically on those bikes, what I find is that even something like brakes, for instance, even if you have them adjusted correctly, they'll actually bend and get knocked out of place. There's going to be a lot of things in those bikes that get knocked out of place because, of course, to make the price $80, they can't use the same types of parts. They can't make certain things adjustable that normally are. So do what you can with it. And if you come onto a repair that's going to cost more than the bike itself, then it's not worth fixing because you're now spending more on the repair than the bike itself. I would say inner tubes, maybe cables, maybe if your tires are worn out, you could replace the tires. I probably wouldn't go any further than that. The other thing, one preventative measure you could take on your $80 bike is pump the tires to the maximum recommended pressure. So look on the side of it and see what the maximum pressure you're allowed to pump them up to. That's going to prevent rim damage. That's going to prevent flats. And overall is going to save you a lot of trouble and make the bike last longer. Better mileage too. Reactive mountain biking. Dude, You're just popping bands tonight. Fox 34 fit for 120 millimeter fork, one standard volume reducer. Okay. So he's giving us the specs on his fork. Mm-hmm. Fox Nude 120, both were performance model. Had them rebuilt to fix factory specs from Fox. I'm 218 pounds and above average mountain biker skill-wise and tune it myself. High-end bike. So most smash for your cash on suspension. So I think I think we kind of said it depends on what type of fork he has. Yeah. So it sounds like he's got some pretty serious stuff there, and he's already got a volume reducer. I would say that you're already doing it right. I mean, you had it rebuilt to Fox factory specs. I mean, you're the model mountain biker in terms of taking care of your stuff. So smash for your cash, you're probably actually spending more than what you could actually get the most smash for your cash with. You might even want to look into a MRP ramp control module. I have them on a few bikes now and absolutely love it. But thank you again. And let's go over to the main comments and see what else we have here. Question, carbon assembly paste on carbon C-post and aluminum frame. Do or do not? I keep getting different answers from different mechanics.
You need to put something there. You have to put something there, whether it's grease or carbon paste, it doesn't matter. I have seen the carbon paste after a long time coagulate, kind of turn into a gel. Just if you know you got carbon paste in there, take it out every so often, clean it, put some more on. But if you're gonna have an aluminum post and a steel frame, those things love each other, and they get rusty, they will become best friends, and you'll never get it out.
So at the very least, put grease in there.
At the very least, anything.
And that's just to prevent problems in the future.
Yeah, future, hell, even a month. You know, if water gets in there and it just sits, it's going to stick to itself, and you're going to have a lot of problems.
Very cool. Yeah, I always put grease in my C-posts, and somebody saw me doing it one time, and they're like, "What are you doing? Don't you want it to stay?" And I'm like, "No. When I take it out, I want it to come out." You ever seen a C-post seize? Yeah. No fun.
It's not fun.
Yeah, it's not fun at all. Oscar Sanchez, thanks, dude. Hey, Seth, I have an old 2010 Santa Cruz bike. I don't know if I should buy a new mountain bike or upgrade my bike parts. What do you recommend? So a 2010, now we're talking about an 8-year-old bike, but it's probably a good bike. I mean, it depends on what you do, Oscar.
Depends on what you're looking for.
What do you think is the best bang for your buck upgrade on, like, let's say if he's got a 2010 Santa Cruz, and I don't know how high end of a Santa Cruz it is.
Probably
it could be
a 2x10 drivetrain, assuming. Go 1x11. Shimano makes a super affordable SLX, even. Probably get it for around $500, maybe less.
And Box is releasing the Box 2 soon, and that's going to be super affordable also.
Yep.
That is from one of my sponsors. But yeah, 1x is not expensive. What else could you do to a bike like that to breathe more life into it?
Add a dropper post. Everyone does. Oh, a dropper post is too heavy. Blah blah blah. Well, a dropper post is a lot of fun. Going downhill, even if you don't have huge downhills, it just gets out of the way. Allows you to jump a little bit more fun. It adds fun to it, and they can be expensive, but there's also affordable ones out there.
Yeah, especially if you can find a used dropper post, or if you just buy a budget one like that D&M one that I had. It wasn't anything to look at, that's for sure, but it's still working to this day, and it makes the seat go down when you press the button. So Bobo got a new bike, and his new bike is an upgrade in every way from his old one. But the biggest thing he keeps telling me about is like, this dropper post is a game changer. It's a game changer.
He never had one, did he?
Yeah, he never had a dropper post. So it's like a total game changer for him. And that can really breathe new life into an old bike. Now, the main thing you're going to get if you get a new bike is a more modern geometry. Even back to 2010, there's been a lot of changes, and people like getting more air now. People like using trail bikes for downhill more now, and
trail bikes are becoming more the norm. Not many people are buying XC bikes with short travel. Trail bike with a dropper post and big tires. people aren't racing, so they want something fun. They want something comfortable. So.
Derek Fester asks, can I please be a moderator, and are box 1 parts worth it? Love your videos, man. So first of all, yeah, I'll make you moderator in a second, but I got to get over there and do it. Please, nobody else ask during the stream, because I got to go over the computer and do it. And our box 1 part's worth it. So as you know, I'm sponsored by Box. I'm going to say good things about Box, but in general, box 1 is the highest end stuff that Box makes, right? SRAM, Shimano, all the other companies have their highest end stuff. Basically, on the highest end stuff, it's worth it if you need really high end stuff. But if you want the most value for your dollar, you would go for something lower end. Like when you see the box 2 stuff come out, it's going to be, I mean, it's going to be really, really, really good value stuff. They're going to have 1 buys and 46 tooth, like this 46 tooth cassette is actually a box 2. And it's not that much money. When you go up into the higher end stuff, no matter what brand it is, not just Box, you're paying for a little bit of luxury. You're getting more performance, but not per dollar. So for instance, if you were to buy a $100 cassette and a $200 cassette, the $200 cassette is not going to be twice as good as the $100 cassette. So when you're talking about really high end stuff, like box 1, it's going to really depend on what your budget is and what you're looking for. I think it's very much worth it. But there are a lot of people that don't ride their bikes very often, and they prefer to get stuff that's a little bit more value oriented, doesn't have as good of a finish, doesn't look as good. But you know, as long as you have your bike in a way that's fun for you to ride it, that's pretty much all that counts. But I do like my stuff to be a little nicer, because when my wrist isn't in pieces, I like to spend a lot of time on my bike. Let's see here. Adam, Charlie Day. I'm not sure what that is, but are you from Britain? That sounds like a British thing to say. I just bought an 18 Stumpy S-Works Fatty. I've never gone tubeless and wanted to try it, but I'm scared I'll run into issues, leaks, etc. Should I just use tubes? I just think tubeless is so much better in every way. There's just no, I mean, if you
got an S-Works bike, why is it?
Yeah, if you have an S-Works, I would say definitely go
legit.
Yeah, it's a pretty legit bike. I would go
dude.
tubeless. But one thing I will say about tubeless is, like, people who really love tubeless will tell you that it's better in every way. It's easier. You never get flats. It's not better in every way. The thing that's not better about tubeless is it is more difficult to work on. Getting tubeless tires on and off, making sure that it's messier. You definitely need a higher level of wrenching skill to work with tubeless. But there's a reason why people go through the BS to go tubeless. You don't get flats from the things that you do with tubes. You know, you run over a square edge rock, or you get a thorn, glass. It's all like, you know, like pretty much if you have a flat on your tubeless tire, you would have also gotten the flat if you had tubes.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, like your sidewall is ripped wide open or something, you know? So
make sure you keep up on the tubeless sealing every 3 to 5 months or something, because it does dry up. Just keep adding to it, you know, and after a while, just take the tire off, clean it out, put some new sealant in there. Seth likes slime. I just use slime. It works good. So just put it in there every so often. I don't know how long it lasts. So
it lasts pretty long. Definitely longer than, you know, Stan's the booger sealant. Is threaded BB better than pressed? If your frame has a threaded BB, then it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because then you can't use a press fit. It depends on what frame. It depends on what frame you have, right? You can't interchange those.
Yes and no. You cannot put a press fit into a threaded. No, you can put a threaded into a press fit with an adapter. Yeah. But you're just asking for more creaks. As a home mechanic, if you are, stick with a threaded bottom bracket. It's a lot easier to get in and out, easy enough to clean if you get a creak or whatever, and easy to replace. You know, the press fit one, you need special tools. You're not just going to use a a pick and a hammer. You know, that's going to ruin things.
So unless you're building some kind of a really specific custom bike where you are forced to use a certain set of parts, just go with what's compatible with your bike. Use the native bottom bracket. That's always going to be the most reliable. I know I actually, when I used to ride BMX back in our day.
No, let's not talk about that.
Yeah, we used to have all press fit until later on. In the early days, it was all press fit. And I remember like using a bolt from the hardware store with washers. The
hammer and 2x4.
Yeah, hammer and a 2x4. Fishing outdoors and random stuff. Would buying a Suntour fork to put on a fully rigid bike work? Yeah, why not?
It should.
Yeah. I was also wondering whether or not you could run it single speed. It has a Shimano tourney. So, okay, it sounds like your bike has derailleurs and stuff on it. So, do I have a single speed? I do. Let me show you something. And this is something that would not be immediately obvious to somebody who's never worked with single speed. Now, I'm going to show you an absolutely beautiful BMX. Okay, so I'm going to show you a BMX, and the reason I'm showing you this BMX is because it is single speed, like all BMXs, but that doesn't mean it's any different from any other single speed bike. So this bike is meant to be single speed, and as you can see here, the chain is nice and tight. Now, the reason the chain is nice and tight is because this wheel can be moved this way or that way in the dropout. You loosen these and you move it back and forth. Now, if you have a bike thanks, Sean. If you have a bike that has a derailleur, you can't move the wheel back and forth like that, so you can't adjust the tension of the chain. So if you want to adjust the tension of the chain, you need to get a chain tensioner.
Like a Surly Singulator.
A Surly Singulator.
They work great.
Yeah, they work great. They're ugly. they're very ugly. I think MRP or DMR makes
everybody's got
there's tons of people that make chain tensioners. So you just got to buy a chain tensioner, deal with how it looks, and yeah, you're good to go, man.
Or
you could definitely
super lucky gear ratio.
Or find a super lucky gear ratio like I did on my single speed. So the reason, and a lot of people couldn't understand why I was so like surprised by that, the unicorn gear, is because unless you have a whole bunch of cassette rings and chain rings to play around with, you're probably not going to just get the perfect gear that has the perfect tension. You're gonna need a chain tensioner. The Real Supergirl, thank you. What is your advice for a rookie wanting to work on their bike? So what would you say?
Your videos, your early ones.
There you go. So I would say the first thing is get some tools. Get some tools, and then the next time you have to do something, you're going to be like, "Oh, if only I could turn that thing."
Well, Park Tool has a YouTube channel as well.
Actually, yeah. So, okay, if you've ever, and I'm not just shouting out Park Tool because to shout out
now
because all manufacturers, have these YouTube channels, but on the Park Tool YouTube channel, this guy Calvin Jones is super entertaining. They make really good videos, and he's usually at the center of it.
He's the man who wrote the book, designed the book for it's a Big Blue Book by Park.
He's like a bike repair god, and very, very natural on camera, very good speaker. And there's all these different videos on Park's YouTube channel, and it'll show you all these different repairs. I just watch him for entertainment sometimes, to be honest.
Funny guy.
Yeah, he's a funny guy. They'll do cutaways of bikes so you can see what's going on in the inside. It's really good. That's something you can do for free. The other thing is get some tools. And of course, you probably already have a multi-tool. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But get like a normal set of Allen keys. Get some spoke wrenches. Get like a starter bike tool set so that at least you have everything there to try with. That's the step. That is the first step to working on your bike, because no matter how much you want to work on your bike, if you don't have tools, you're not gonna be able to do it. Pedaling with Paul. What up, dude? That's Paul from Grapefruit Trails in Florida. Very, very magical place. Daily mountain bike rider. How often should you refill your tubeless sealant? So it's going to depend on what type of sealant you have. But I mean, what I find is if I shake the tire and I can't hear it, then I've already let it go way too long.
That's a good sign.
Yeah, that's a good sign. Is there a more, like I know some people will actually take the valve core out and put a dipstick in there.
You could try that.
What would you say is by the book? Just break
the bead on the tire.
Just every 4 months or something.
Yeah,
just take your
months, just add some more, or just break the bead on the tire
and look in it.
To go in, yeah, just take a look, see what you got in there.
There's no shortcut. I mean, me personally, I go way too long. Like I'll go over 6 months sometimes in one tire, and then usually I'll either wear out the tire before I have to change it if it's the riding season, or if it's the winter time, and it's really been sitting there for a while, I'll check it and do the shake test and say, oh, I'm way overdue. So to me, it's not an exact science. Some people say every 4 months, every 3 months. Some people who like to run really small amount of sealant because they're saving weight or whatever, they'll do it like once every 2 months. But yeah, I think Sean and I are on the same page. We just check it. Jerome or Jeremy. So the 6mm Allen bolt in the crank arm on the drive side is coming loose often. I just tighten it and then it loosens after some downhill. Thread locker, right?
Proper torque.
Proper torque.
Proper torque.
Could he be over tightening it and it's already stripped out?
I'm just trying to 6mm. I don't know what cranks you have that is 6mm. Typically they're 8 or 10. So the 6. Yeah, check the proper torque. Take it apart, clean it, re-grease it, and re-torque it. If you're having serious issues, check the manufacturer specs. Maybe throw some thread locker in there, like Seth just said. And
yeah, if you're using the proper torque and it's not stripped out or there's nothing wrong with it, then yeah, I would try thread locker. If you've never used thread locker, it's this. You can get it at any hardware store. You put it on the threads of whatever bolt you're putting in there. You tighten it in there, and then it dries. And then if you ever have to take the bolt out again, you can, but you have to kind of crack it loose. Carl Stanton, hey, from the UK, guys. So on a recent trip, I had second thoughts. Love them for climbing, but more confident in flats on descents. What do you prefer? So Sean clips in, and I ride flat pedals. It's all about preference. I have the controversial opinion that clipless pedals are more dangerous. End of story. If I'm a big bailer, obviously it didn't work out this time, but I'm way into bailing. I have tutorials on bailing. I'm a master bailer. Master. One of the best bailers around, right? Well, that's debatable too. But anyway, if I'm trying to get off of a bike to safety, I don't care if clipless pedals can unclip in a split second. A split second is way too long for me when I'm bailing. So I'm more confident on flat pedals. But there are a lot of merits to clipless pedals. For instance, once you've adjusted the cleat and everything, your feet are in the perfect pedaling position every single time you put them on the pedals. So you can really dial all that stuff in, and you can get it perfect. So especially if you're competitive. I also know a lot of downhillers that'll even run clipless pedals because stuff gets so janky and crazy that they can't even keep their feet on flat pedals. Phil has even ridden with clips because of that. And Sean, what do you think? Why do you like clipless?
I like clipless because for climbing, I enjoy actually climbing. I'm sure some of you saw Alex's video where I just climbed away from him and he started yelling at me.
Sean likes climbing.
I like climbing. I like being stuck. I don't know if any of you guys follow Seth's Instagram, but he had a big old bubble on his shin from his his flat pedal. And I don't like that. Unless you have a serious crash with your clipless, that's not going to happen. I just feel more sturdy. You're more in tune with your bike. You're there. But back to Seth's thing, I grew up on flats. We rode BMX on flats. I know how to ride in flats. So my positioning with my feet is a little bit different. I like my feet to float a little bit. So I leave them a little bit looser. Some people like them super tight. I just like them loose because I'm used to the flat pedal. It's just my preference.
It is preference. That's really what it comes down to.
You know, the guy who just won the EWS title, he was on flats, so there's something to say.
All right, so that's the flats versus clips debate, which comes up anytime you have a video like this. Landon Bywald, I hope I pronounced that correctly. Thanks, dude. Question. So when I try to spin the chain backwards, it catches sometimes. And also when coasting, my rear derailleur swings up and stops the bike. So both of those sound related.
Yeah. So one thing to do is check to make sure your rear axle, through axle, bolt on, quick release, whatever it is not over tightened. Sometimes what that can do is put too much pressure on the bearings in the hub. And then whatever happens, you know, when you release that tension from pedaling forward, the wheel just locks up. So check that. Make sure your rear axle is not over tightened. Another thing is your free hub. Good thing this is here. This is the inside of your cassette. Make sure that this is loose. Take your wheel off. Make sure this spins freely. If it does not spin freely, then that's your problem. Because what's happening is this has become a fixed gear bike, a track bike. And that's why your chain keeps doing what it's doing.
So in other words, instead of just, so your cassette, while you're coasting, it's supposed to stay still, right? It's not supposed to spin with the wheel. But if it's spinning, it's going to take the derailleur with it. And that really sounds like it illustrates what you're saying. So that's pretty astute. So yeah, make sure you can spin that cassette. Dimitri, currently have a 3x8. Any issues going race face, NW1 by 32 teeth? Also in Florida, Oleta Park, any recommendations on tires? So, excuse me, tires at Oleta and pretty much anywhere in South Florida, I would go with the widest tires you can get and make sure they're tubeless, because you're going to want to ride, you're going to want something that's good in sand and it's in loose stuff. Oleta is more roots and stuff like that, but there are definitely some sandy sections. You're going to want wider tires, but you're not going to want a really gnarly tread. I would try to get something fast rolling, like maybe like the fattest Icon you can get or something like that. Florida is very like, I don't know if you've ever ridden down there.
Shell rock and sand?
There's shell rock, sand. At Oleta, it's probably a little more, it's more proper dirt, but there are a lot of roots, and it gets sandy in a lot of places.
Well, we were just in LFI and Bonvoyeur. Is there anything like that?
I would say it's somewhat similar to that. Yeah.
Yeah, you can run a wide XC style tire, so a fast rolling, Specialized Fast Track, Maxxis Icon, Schwalbe Racing Ralph, you know, those kind of tires, fast rolling, you know, spaced out knobs.
Now, in terms of you having a 3x8, any issues going race face, NW?
That's the narrow whites. That's the one wire in.
Race face, narrow wide. I should know that.
No, I'd say there are issues.
Yeah, because
chain's too wide. That's the first issue. The chain's too wide.
So he couldn't go with a narrower chain because he's looking at changing his rear cassette and derailleur and everything. If he'd
have to go at, I've done it with 9-speed. 9-speed does not have a clutch, so that chain will not keep the retention, and it will probably just fall off the chain ring on occasion. I've done it. It works. It helps. But the 3x8, it will not work. It's too wide of a chain, and you do not have a clutch on the rear derailleur like Seth pointed out with his box. It just it won't keep the retention. It won't stay tight.
Yeah, I think what Sean said is pretty consistent with my experience. You can do it. First of all, it's not going to be expensive to try. You could take off your big ring, you could take off your front shifter, and you can try and bolt it on and see how it works, but it's not the type of chain that it's designed for. Like, I've done it before. I think I did it on my Trek 4900 actually, and it was good, but it wasn't perfect. You know, I still had it pop off here and there. I ended up using some chain retention. And Adam says, I mentioned Charlie Day because I think you resemble him a bit from the movie Horrible Bosses, but thanks for the info on tubeless. I will try it. Yeah, I've never seen
Charlie Day is from what's the Philadelphia bar show?
Oh, I'm so out of the loop with TV.
Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Oh, okay.
In Philadelphia. I'm pretty sure that's Charlie Day.
Oh, okay.
Little guy with a beard.
I don't get any cultural references. I'm terrible. Daily MTB Rider, are you watching off camera after this at 9 p.m.? so the single track sampler is going to be live streaming, but I might have 2 live streams going at once because I am a fan of off camber. So that would be pretty cool. And we're going to be wrapping this up soon. So I think that would definitely be a good idea. CP Relentless. I was looking on Diamondback's website today and could not find the Synchro Pro. Did they stop making it? If so, what bike would be equal to it? So I don't think they stopped selling the Synchro Pro. Yeah, see if you can. I would just Google it. What bike would be equal to it? I mean, I'll tell you what category that is, an all mountain hardtail. So if you're
slacked out hardtail. Yeah,
it's a slacked out all mountain hardtail. I know that in later on this year, the Sinker should be getting a bit of a refresh at some point, but it looks like, yeah, well, what if you just Google here? I'm going to show you guys a trick. Go to the Google search, Diamondback Synchro Pro. One of the first results is
family. Nothing with Synchro.
Maybe it's temporarily off their site. Maybe they ran out of stock. So yeah, I wouldn't be able to, you know what I would do is just go to their website during the day and just go to the live chat because they answer basically instantly. And they can tell you whether they're getting it back in the stock or whatever. But I'm sure if it was out of stock, they would probably hide it or do something.
Yeah, blur it out.
Yeah, they would do something. Brake feels and sounds gravelly. Tried cleaning. I don't know what kind of brake you have. I would assume it's a disc brake, but I would say follow the same advice that Sean gave before for squeaky disc brake. You said you tried cleaning it, but did you try like actually sanding the discs? You know, I mean, gravelly, that almost sounds like the pads are down to.
Yeah, check the pads.
I would just change the pads if it sounds gravelly. That's not good at all, dude.
Maybe make sure there's no dirt in the caliper.
Yeah.
Anything. Just look at it, take it out, clean it.
Bewald. Okay, so I sort of pronounced it okay. Thanks. And what 9-speed would you recommend? I wouldn't recommend any 9-speed. That's like
I'd go straight to 10.
Yeah, I would go straight to 10 or 11.
Whatever's gonna definitely work.
Yeah. If you're so in terms of the problem you're having with your bike, you got to check to see that nothing seized up back there and then decide what you have to replace. But if you're going to replace stuff, yeah, go straight to a 10-speed and give yourself an upgrade. Dude, that would be awesome. And John Green says resurface the rotors. That's back to the gravelly thing there. And let's see what else we have here.
Looks like Alex is starting. People are saying.
Alex is starting, so I won't step on his toes for very long. Then we'll wrap this up. Wiley Long says, I have an entry-level XC bike with quick release, and my front wheel keeps getting loose. Do I need to replace the hub or axle? And if so, how hard would it be? So
I got a great idea.
It sounds like he's not using the quick release correctly if it's getting loose.
If for some reason, if you are using it right, you've gone through all the steps. I know Seth had a video on it a while ago. DT Swiss makes an awesome quick release. It's similar to a through axle, and it is a quick release where you take it and you just you tighten it down, and you're able to pull the lever out and then tighten it down, reposition it, tighten it, and you can crank that thing down really good.
DT Swiss makes it.
Yep, DT Swiss makes it.
So if your bike has a quick release rather than a through axle, it's a really good upgrade to just make things better.
Yeah, front end, they make it for the front and the rear.
Yeah, so if you're not having any trouble with your quick release and you're using it properly, you're not just turning it, you're actually flipping it over and tightening it, then yeah, I would do that upgrade. That sounds like a pretty good recommendation. And really make sure that you're using the quick release properly, because I've seen so many people use quick releases improperly. They just turn it around and round and round until it gets tight. And you're supposed to leave it flipped out loose, tighten it down, and then flip it over. So yeah. Mountain bike or adventure bike? What should I buy next? Mountain bike. Fat guy on a bike. What is your adventure? I mean, I don't know if
depends on what you got. Do you have mountain bike?
You have crap loads of fire roads and you just want to burn up miles and get an adventure bike. But yeah, if you want to go on mountain bike trails, get a mountain bike. Fat guy on a bike. You sound like my kind of guy. What's your favorite front and rear tire combination for downhill? I would say just minions all around. I kind of like having the high roller on the rear because it's a little bit more like kind of straight line tire. And I like all the kind of more side knoppier stuff in the front. But honestly, I don't even know if I would notice a difference with two minions and just two minions.
Minions would be good.
Yeah, with the downhill casing and everything. I'd say that minions.
DHFs.
Yeah, I pretty much, when I buy tires, I almost only buy Maxxis. So I don't even have any other recommendations besides Maxxis minions.
Magic Mary from Schwalbe.
Yeah, a lot of people. Is that what Gus runs?
Well, he was. Now he's sponsored by Maxxis. So
he's probably running minions.
He's got a minion and a shorty. Actually, he's got a shorty up front for the mud.
Nice.
So it's like a dirt bike tire.
So he's gonna have a lot fewer sidewall problems now. So that's about it. Let's try and knock out one in the main chat before we go here. Entry level hardtail bike suggestions. I made a video on that, William. Go back to my channel and check it out. Check that. And not only do I have a suggestion, but I tell you how to look at a bike and tell whether it's a good entry level hardtail. So you don't even have to go with the brand or recommendation I gave. You can just look at any bike and be able to identify it after that video. So if you look on my channel, it was only like a month and a half ago that I made that video. And Luke M, what's up, Seth? What up, Luke? How are you? Thank you.
Got some bike loop questions up there.
How do I loosen my brakes? That doesn't sound like a problem that
it's another loaded question
anybody has here. Can you make any rim tubeless?
No.
That depends on how much time you want to put into it.
Yeah,
I mean, look up ghetto tubeless. Bike Man For You has got a really funny video on it. Look up ghetto tubeless and you'll see why Sean just said no. It's a lot of work. It's a lot. Now, some ghetto tubeless setups work really easy. Like on my Trek 4900, I had a video on a long time ago, and it actually went pretty smoothly, and those held up great. But I've had others, like I tried to, just for fun, for a video, make Drama has a trailer that I tow him in. I tried to make one of the tires on that tubeless.
I saw that.
And I just failed miserably because it was so loose, you know? So if you have like a really good wheel and tire that's not tubeless, I feel like those usually fit tight, and those are the easiest ones to make tubeless. But yeah, can you? Yes. Should you? Maybe not.
So two questions. One was clamping on your dropper post. I do it every day.
Every day in the shop.
Every day, 1,000 times a day. Do it.
And yeah.
Fox actually has their Kashima coated post. Not too many people have it. Maybe don't do it on that because you just paid an extra $100 for gold. Yeah, maybe not on that, but everything else I do it every day. I wouldn't worry about it. I saw carbon tightening. How tight do you make your levers on your carbon bars? Factory spec. It's on your bars. It's if you got SRAM, they've got the video on it. How tight to make it. Get a torque wrench. That's your best bet. Don't just snug it down because you will break the carbon. It will happen. Seen it. I've done it.
So Evolved Turtle asks, you used to be sponsored by Trek, right? Nope. So somebody asked how much longer with the cast, so I can get back to the freaking riding videos rather than just doing hacks in my garage. So by April, I'll be back on my bike, but I'm not going to be full force. I would say by May, I'll be full force, just trying stupid stuff again and going all over the place and having a good time. But yeah, I think, how do you take off a chain without a master link? With a chain brake. It's right there with a chain, with one of those with a chain brake. That's the only way you're going to be able to do it.
That's it.
So anyway, I think we're going to wrap that up. I'm going to sit down and watch some off-camera live and some single track sampler for the rest of the night. Maybe even with another slice of pizza.
We got a best taco one.
Best taco one?
Chicken, pineapple, lettuce, tomato.
Oh, I don't mess
Chipotle sauce.
I don't mess with pineapple. Yeah, what's it? I always like fish tacos.
Fish are good.
I'm really into fish tacos. And with that, unless there's some legitimate bike questions, how do you clean rust off a bike? I would assume it's a steel bike.
Steel wool, sandpaper.
Yeah, I would get some sandpaper, steel wool, sand the area until all the rust is gone. Clean it until it just looks like bare metal, and then put some kind of paint over it so that it doesn't rust again.
Look at all the taco questions.
Yeah. All the tacos. And with that, we are going to end it. Thanks, everybody.
Peace out.